So, I'd like to begin with a poem from a man named Kaladisa, an ancient Sanskrit writer who will be the foundation of the house that we built today. He writes, "Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence. Yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. And today well lived, makes yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Such is the salutation to an ever new dawn." Here is a reality. There is only one place that God is available: now. There is only one place that love will ever be available to you: now. There is only one place that you can ever find the power and the innocence and the beauty of the song that Beth just sang about. The song that wants to be written through you and as you, that is calling for life, calling for birth. It is now. And so, yes, we take a moment to honor what has happened in the past. But we honor it by not forgetting what was in the past. To know that there is a song that wants to be born as a result of what we have learned, of what we have gathered and what we have grown. And by doing so, tomorrow becomes a place of hope, a place of peace, a place of greater harmony and balance. Yes? You see, 9/11 did not break us. It did not break us as a nation. It didn't break us as individuals, but it broke us open. I believe that situation, however dark and desolate, and how much it hurt, broke us open to out of the walking zombie sleep that we were in, because we had forgotten that we belonged to each other. We had forgotten that there is a song that is stirring within us that wants to be sung, that wants to be played, that wants to be given life, and that same song is in you, and in you, and in you, and in you. Let 9/11, this anniversary, be an awakening process to an energy of ho. I've been learning with words, and Lisa Bowen, where's Lisa? She sent this word to me a couple of weeks ago. I've been playing with new words. Ho. Everyone say that with me. Oh, you're so serious. Ho. Again. Ho is a Navajo word. It's basically the premise of the entire Navajo tradition, which basically means I will not be defined by my circumstances. I will be in synergy, in a place of congruity with whatever happens to be out here, because I am finding the beauty that is there in the midst of it. I am finding the hope that is in the midst of it. Yes, towers will come down. Yes, I will fail and I will fall down and be brought to my knees, but I will not be defined by the circumstances, the external realities, but determined by my ability to find good in the midst of it. My ability to be the temple, the living, breathing temple and sanctuary of love, even when there's love nowhere around in the environment. This is a basic Navajo tradition. People who are closest to the earth know this. And you want to know if you have fallen asleep and gone back to the humanity that we were before 9/11, you're going to be far from earth, far from Mother Earth. Take a moment to get still, to get silent, to get quiet, to go out into nature and live from the energy of ho. To recognize that no matter how hopeless the world might seem, no matter how hopeless our current political scene in this country might feel to us, that there is ho, there is beauty. And so I have made my mission over the last couple of weeks to quit pointing fingers at any candidate or any party and belaboring what is not working and what is wrong, because I'm giving all the power to the environment. And power can only be found now in my awareness, in my space, in my heart, living and breathing from the place of ho. Say that again with me. Ho. There is good everywhere. There is light everywhere. We are intrinsically connected to a magnificence that we cannot be separated from. So no matter how dark it might be, you cannot be separate from that light. Know it. Breathe it. Live it. In preparing for today's talk about hope, I remembered one of my heroes, General Robinson Risner. Anybody ever heard of him? He was a POW in the Vietnam War. For 7 years, General Robinson Risner was kept in a 3-by-3 prison cell in pitch blackness, pitch darkness. He could not see his hand in front of his own face, and it was stagnant and stale air. It was a place of torture and a place of death. Now he came home. How is that possible? He came home and survived 7 years in that kind of environment. He was asked time and time again, how did you do it? And he says the first couple of years were pure hell, because he was defined by what was out here. And he said, but then I found something. He didn't say it was hose-ho, but I'm going to call it hose-ho. And he says, when I began to get still, and I was close to the edge of death, and I began to get quiet, I realized that I could bring beauty to the environment. And he began to pay attention to the environment and realized that for 2 years he had missed a little crack that was underneath his bed. Underneath the hard wood that he slept on was a little crack right at where the floor and the wall came together. He'd never noticed it before. And he laid down on the cold, barren floor, and he looked into that crack, and lo and behold, it was attached to a vent. There was a vent, and at the end of that vent, far away, he could see a little crack of light. Little crack of light. And then he began to realize that the stagnant air of his prison environment was not so stagnant at that crack. Something fresh was coming in. And he put his face close to that crack. There's life here. There's light here, and there's life here. And he said, for the next 5 years, that little crack of light and that little breath of fresh air saved my soul. Saved my life. Now, many of you sitting here today, here in our East Cobb community, go, I don't have any problem like that. How can I relate to that? My life is going great. It's humming along. Everything's perfect. I got money in the bank account. I got a house. I got a car. I got friends. I got family. If that's the case, then the challenge I want to lay down to you today is to be the crack of light for somebody. The greatest way to know the presence and the power of the infinite, by whatever name you want to give it, is to serve somebody else. If you're not serving somebody else by being a breath, be the breath of fresh air for somebody. You know somebody right now in your life who might be suffocating. And if you can't find them in Cobb County, go somewhere else and find that person. And do a little resuscitation, because somebody has forgotten. Hope will come to humanity as we remember that we belong to each other. And just because we have a cushy lifestyle and everything's taken care of for us, my spiritual path must be complete. We're all about manifestation in unity, and we've manifested all this great thing. But the manifestation will go away, and you'll be brought to your knees if you're not sharing it. If you're not giving voice to what is good, what is holy and sacred, and being the very breath for another human being, guess what? You've fallen asleep to the separation, to the duality of the human ego. And what happens when we fall asleep? Sooner or later, another 9/11 is going to come. Uh-oh, there's wax on the floor. Don't tell Diane. Sooner or later, something's going to happen, and lots of times we call it the 2x4 of God. That's not a God that we teach or believe in. There isn't a God smacking you upside the head. But it's the very call of your soul calling for the greater expression of enlightenment that says, pay attention. The gifts you have been given were not for you to hold alone. There is no private good in this universe. Get on the floor and breathe some air into somebody's prison. Get on the floor and be the shred of light and hope for somebody. Yes? You know, I've noticed a whole bunch lately. This is the true confessions portion of the talk. The last couple of months, my attitude has been going on a downward spiral. And I've noticed, you've noticed it too? Just like, finally, he's going to admit it. But my attitude, I began to focus on what isn't working. I've been looking at the political scene and saying, this isn't working. And I won't give you my opinion about that. But it wasn't working. And guess what? I was contributing piles of manure to the political system by saying it isn't working and none of these people are right. And I would love to say it stayed at the political scene, but it began to infest my family. People were not showing up the way they were supposed to show up. Do you have people like that in your life? If you just show up the way you're supposed to, I would be peaceful. Hose ho. Hose ho. Hose ho. But I've been looking at TV, I've been looking at the environment of our community, I've been looking at work and family and a whole bunch of things, and I realized that I was headed for a 9/11. Some kind of awakening that was about to happen because I had forgotten I belonged to people. I had forgotten that there is beauty even when I can't see it. I was defining myself by a 3x3 dark, stagnant prison cell that was created only by my own consciousness. Thank God I have a wife and a staff that can give me a kick in the behind and say, get on the floor. Do that with me. Some of you today have come into this room dealing with some real challenges. And if you're not dealing with them personally, you're dealing with them holding the weight of the world when you see the state that our world is in. Take a moment to get on the floor, get low, get close to earth, and go, there's still beauty here. Every piano student that I've ever had, they'd play a beautiful piece, and they would make mistakes, and they'd pound the keys afterwards and say, it wasn't good enough. I made 2 mistakes. I made 3 mistakes on that piece. Count the right notes. Everything shifts when you change the perspective. You just played a beautiful Chopin etude, and you made 2 mistakes. How many thousands of notes were played correctly? I'm challenging this congregation and each of you as an individual to begin to look at the right notes, to begin to look for the cracks of light that are there and stop belaboring what isn't working. We will avoid another 9/11 if we can do so. And we will be the hope and the breath and the crack of life for the kids that are coming up that need to inherit something a little bit more beautiful than what we have created. Here comes a crack of light right now. Hi, Miss Gladys. We all should have a chariot like that. There's a painting by George Frederick Watts. Pay no attention to the woman behind the curtain. George Frederick Watts created a painting called Hope. Now, many of you have seen this picture before. It was on the cover of Barack Obama's book, The Audacity of Hope. And it's a picture of a world, a globe, a brown, barren, stagnant environment that's gone dead. And on top of that earth is a woman. And she's blindfolded. She's blind. You ever been blind before? Where you couldn't see the beauty and you couldn't see the good? And she's leaning across a harp that is worn and tattered and rusty and falling apart. And there's only one string left. One string. And she is leaning in to hear the music of that one last note. Very much like getting on the floor, General Robinson Risner. There is still light here. Hose ho. Hose ho. And here's a reality, a spiritual truth that contained within that one note that exists in you. No matter how dark life has gotten or how difficult life has gotten or how low the bank account has gotten or how many days you've spent in the hospital, that note is there, that string waiting for you to play it. And we live in a universe that is designed that when you play that one string, bung, 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 there's an entire universe that is responding to that. The world is set up like a magnificent river that is flowing to the ocean, and it knows only to go to the ocean. God knows only to flow in health, to flow in abundance, to flow in magnificence, to flow in love. And when you play that string, bung, you have activated a universe that says, oh, you're paying attention again. 9/11 caused us to pay attention, and we began to play a string that was healing. We began to play that harp and to transcend our blindness, to begin to transcend our pain. And we remembered again that we belong to each other. There's an entire symphony, angelic forces and presences that are waiting for you to play that string today. Some of them are sitting around you right now. You want to know why I participate in community? Because my life would be much easier if I didn't have to deal with personalities. I'm here because there are days when I can't play that string and I say, wrap your arms around me and play the harp for me. And there are days where I have the honor, the distinct honor and blessed privilege for somebody to come in my office and say, I've forgotten. And that's when I ask the question always, do you have faith and hope that it can be better than it is right now? And many times that answer is no. And I say, then can I, not physically but metaphorically, wrap my arms around you and play that string for you and with you? If you can't believe it for yourself, then lean into my belief. If you can't have the hope that tomorrow will be better, lean into the energetic vibration of our oneness and let me know it for you. Get on the ground and just try to breathe at the crack. I'm going to go on the other side of that vent. We're going to perform a little CPR here because I know who you are. You are magnificent. And we will find Ho together. And what happens is a state of metanoia. Another word I've been playing with lately. Metanoia. Sounds like a big fancy word. It basically means change your mind. Change your thought. Change your perspective. And in that very simple act of changing your mind, spiritual transformation will happen and does happen. And sometimes you can't get there without somebody grabbing your hands and say, let's find metanoia together. Let's find Ho together. Let's crawl on the ground together. Now this is not, metanoia and Ho is not about denying that you're having a human experience. Let me get real clear here. We're not saying it's not hot and I'm not in hell. But it's saying it will not define me because I am more. Bong, bong, bong. Suddenly, when two notes are played together, there's harmony. And when there's two notes played together, you become an energetic where two or more are gathered in the name of peace and joy and love and hope and promise. The entire universe moves in. And people want to spend time with you. They're sitting in a restaurant and they're going, I want what you're having. I want what you're having. People are paying attention and they are watching. And this is our job as spiritual seekers. As the master teacher told us, turn the other cheek. Change your mind. Turn the other cheek is sometimes interpreted as, well, somebody throws a rock at you, just pretend it didn't happen. That's metaphysical malpractice. Sometimes it's like somebody is rude and insulting, and you just walk away from that. It doesn't mean that you give permission for anybody to do something, but it says, I will look a different way. I will see the person who was thrown the rock as not evil, not bad, but as lost and asleep. And so whether it be towers coming down, this community will never throw rocks back. This community will never exchange an eye for an eye or a tooth for a tooth because that will leave us all blind and toothless. I stole that a little bit from Martin Luther King. I added the toothless part. This community will stand for a place of ho-ho, hozo, and ding-dongs. We are a bunch of ding-dongs, you know this. We will stand for ho that said, no matter how dark your behavior is, I will hold the light that is within you, and I will call it out, and I will play the string for you. I will look a different way and live in a state of metanoia. And by the very change in consciousness, the change in thought, the world begins to transform. It's by law set up that way. You are the creative center of your universe, and when you change your thought, look a different direction, things are beginning to respond. Things are beginning to shift and to change. And so I'm going to give you just 5 challenges to go home with before we go into this beautiful meditation that Selena Two Bears is going to lead us in. Every morning, here's a challenge, what I have done over the last week to try and change my attitude and to focus on something better. Do not get out of your bed. Do not let your feet hit the floor in that bedroom until you have found that note. Some purpose for getting out of bed and existing, not going to work, not going through the Monday checklist. I'm a Virgo and I love my checklists. Find something that isn't on the checklist. It's a state of being, not a state of doing. It's a state of shining that light and remembering what we've talked about here today. My job is to find one person and remind them that they're not alone. That's it. Good, now I get out of bed. When you go to bed, you know, you are most active as a creative being when you are asleep. What you have taken to bed before you go to sleep is now being rehearsed. Unity teaches us that thoughts held in mind will reproduce after their kind. You've gone to bed for 6, 7, 8 hours. You are now rehearsing whatever you took to bed. We're often cautioned, don't go to bed angry. Yeah, that's a good idea. Don't go to bed anxious either. Don't go to bed frustrated either. Don't go to bed blaming somebody. Don't go to bed without forgiveness being a part of your experience. Don't go to bed with anything of a dualistic nature, but go to bed with the idea that we are one, and we don't need another 9/11 to wake us up. In your difficulty is the most amplified time for creation because you are focused. Difficulty wakes you up, makes you pay attention, and now here you are, really present. Do it consciously. Do it aware, and turn the other cheek and look for a crack of light. No matter how difficult and bad Miss Gladys might behave, I will behold the magnificence of your soul. I'm going to pay for that one. And what you find when you do that is we then begin breathing together. We are breathing together, and we are part of the transformation of the entire planet. That happens here in this community, but if it happens just in this community and doesn't go out these doors, you've wasted your time. Go make the world better out there. Breathe with somebody out there. In your celebration, this is something we do every Wednesday night. When you're in a place, you're the one sitting there going, I'm in Cobb County. I've got all the money I need. I got a car. I got a house. I'm taken care of. My family's happy. That's great. Give voice to it. Talk about it. Don't let anybody tell you that that's egotistical to say the universe is for me, and I'm proving it. I'm proving the veritable presence of God expressing at the point of me. Go tell somebody, because that very act is going to awaken the vibration of the string within them, and then share it, and then gather evidence. Your challenge and your homework, I do give homework once in a while, is to begin to gather evidence for the notes that are right. Begin to gather evidence that there is fresh air when nobody around you can find it or see it. Begin to gather evidence that there is good in the middle of our political system right now. And let me tell you, that shift in my head, I was able to see good on both sides of the fences. Both of our candidates, all 4 of our candidates, are bringing a greater good to the planet, and they're stepping into a place of leadership. And when I quit criticizing them, wow, I could have had a V8. The criticism of my leadership began to go away. Is that an accident? When I quit criticizing the leaders of our country and our government, those that are saying I want to lead, I quit getting a lot less criticism about how I lead this community. I don't think that's an accident. Love begets love. Light begets light. Goodness and breath begets goodness and breath. Actively seek it out. And the best way I know how to do that, I'm going to invite Selena Two Bears to come up right now and to lead us in a time of reflection and peace, of hope and remembering. And I'm going to leave you with that poem as she makes her way up. Today well lived makes yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day, the now moment. Such is the salutation of the ever new dawn. Such is the salutation of your very awakening, your very returning home like the prodigal son coming home, to know that you cannot be separate from God, from light, from love, from anybody in this room and anybody out there.